Ingenious Cloud Summit last week,
Yeah,
right?
the
That was pretty
summit
cool.
that was last week, right?
Last week, yeah, it's
Last
been
week,
a
yeah.
been a busy week.
Yeah, that was a good event.
Yeah.
I will say this though, Top Golf, if you listen, you weren't very hospitable.
No, I mean they're not trying to be nice. They know that people love that place, so
Yeah, but
um,
they weren't very friendly.
they're not friendly at all.
The
I
lady
mean,
we met at the Edison Top Golf was not very friendly at
no.
all. And we were bringing in, I would say, a pretty good amount of business for them.
Oh
So it
yeah,
was like,
there was a lot of partners that showed up, and and we hit a few balls, but we talked about the gateway
yes,
first, right?
yep,
So,
yep.
but first, where you have a Tesla event that happened like with your car. What
Yeah.
happened?
Yeah, so I was getting in my car and the Tesla, the model I have the Model 3 and it has a screen and the screen controls pretty much everything. You can use your app too to control things, but the screen controls everything. Well, I was getting in there, I was getting in the car and the screen would be frozen. And at first it didn't have it was like kind of it seemed random and it seemed to happen after a firmware update. So I'm like, oh, there's a firmware bug or there's a problem there. So I try to contact service through like the chat system that they have through the app. And so I brought it in there for another reason, but it was freezing up probably. Well, every time I got in the car, it was frozen. So I would have to basically, there's two buttons on the wheel that you have to push down. It resets it, and then it would work for a little while, and then it would freeze up again. I'm like, what the heck is going on here? This is a new car. And I was cussing Elon Musk. And
And when you say frozen,
and
it was working. Just your touch wasn't working.
it was freezing. I'll
Yeah.
just say that.
Okay. Okay.
That was my experience. The
Okay.
screen was freezing. And so talking with service, I said they were going to replace the screen. I was like, wow, that's kind of crazy. A new car and they're going to replace the screen. And I said, hey, if you replace that screen, you need to replace my screen protector. Voila, that was the problem. The screen protector was the issue. And so what I learned from that is don't buy an aftermarket screen protector, just buy Teslas.
Yeah. I don't.
Or actually, better yet, don't even put a screen protector on the screen. And
Right.
so we took the screen protector off and it was fine. But what was happening is it was creating, like when it gets hot, it creates, there's a ghosting of like the fingerprints or whatever.
Hmm.
And it was freaking the computer out and locking it
Ah.
up.
Okay.
And I think that's what's happening.
Yeah.
I just that's what I heard.
No screen
Uh,
protector.
but apparently that happens. That happens a lot. You researched it as well.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, no, I don't have one. We have the same cars now, and I don't have one of mine. It's never done it, so I'm like, it seemed kind of weird that yours was already having some sort of issue.
Yeah.
But you figured it out, so
Yeah, and it's working. It's working fine.
yeah,
So, and
awesome.
I've had it for a few days now.
All right, so when we're at the partner cloud summit, there we talked about the gateway, the ESG510, and the others, right? And you gave me one to demo. Like I was one of
I
the
gave you two.
two. Yeah, I already gave that one away. No, I didn't. So you gave away some ESG510s for people to demo, and I set mine up already as my like main internet router yesterday or the day before, and it's been working great. I replaced the Microtech router, and it was pretty easy. I copied all over the rules. I have some like DHCP reservations I had set. I had some firewall rules.
Yep.
I copied them over. It was real easy to do, and just replaced the router, and it's up and running. And I'm going to share the screen so people can see what it
This
looks
is
like.
your primary router now, right?
Yeah, this is we're talking through it right now. I mean, so so I'm sharing it now. Now I'm looking at the dashboard with the router, so you can see my WAN 1 port here is connected to the Comcast router modem. Sorry, and my P1 is connected to the Ingenious multi-gig switch. You can see it's linked at 2.5 gig here. port 1. And what did we learn about the 24 port multi-gig switch? That now all the ports are multi-gig.
I made a rookie mistake on a live webinar.
Yeah.
And I did a demo on a webinar just basically setting up the gateway along with a switch and a access point. And I plugged into the first port and the 13th port, which are all gigabit.
Yes.
The last 8 are multi-gigabit. So and somebody on the webinar, part of the FAQ, or not FAQ, the Q&A, they were like, "Oh, why is it linked up at only a gigabit?" And being on the webinar, I was like, "Oh, I don't know. I don't know why." I was like, maybe it's the cable, maybe it's something. But then I thought about it afterwards. Who was I talking to? Was I talking to you?
Yeah, I think. Are you talking to Eddie? You said.
No, it was you. I think it was you.
Yeah, because I had the same issue because I'm looking at the switch now, the ECS2528 FP. Now I had the gateway plugged into port 1, which is where I had the Microtech plugged in. The Microtech only had 1 gig port, so it didn't matter, right?
Yeah.
So I just used the same wire. I plugged it into port 1 again. And I noticed that it was only linked at 1 gig, and then I looked at the switch and I'm like, oh yeah, only the last 8 ports, 17 through 24, are multi-gig, right? So now you can see I'm uplinked from the gateway router into port 23, and you see the little arrow there shows that that's the internet connection.
Yeah.
Is that just shows, does the arrow, is it internet only or is it uplink in general? Like, will all the switches show that? That they're uplinked? Yeah, it's uplink. So
it's
uplink to the gateway of port 23, you can see it's at 2.5 gig. So let's go back to the gateway and take a look at it. Details. Now, the gateway, it can have 2 WAN ports, but I've got all the ports configured right now as LAN. Now,
yeah, P1 to P3, right?
P1 to P3 configured as LAN right now. I'm only using one of them. Now, you could use a second internet connection on port 3 and set that to WAN 2, enable WAN 2, right?
Yep.
But then you need to have 2 separate cable arms or at least one that gives you out 2 separate IP addresses, because this gateway, it will load balance round robin, but it won't lag those 2 ports together. So you need to have 2 IP addresses to use that second WAN port. So either 2 cable modems or 1 cable modem, 2 IP addresses. Now, I'll kind of go into the cable modem a little bit. Like, I had the AIRS T25, and that one has 2 1 gig ports. And it allows you to lag those 2 together, so you can get up to 2 gig on those. But so I could do that with the switch. I could lag those into the switch and then uplink a multi-gig port into the router, right? And just set up a VLAN right there. I could do that, but the actual maximum capacity of that T25 is only 949 meg with Xfinity, I guess. So it just doesn't, I guess the number of streams that it has as far as the cable modem stuff goes will only support up to 949 anyway, so doesn't make sense. Doesn't make sense to use those 2 ports. So I went ahead and I ordered the multi-gig Motorola MB8611. So that one has a 2.5 gig port, and it maxes out at like 2.39 gig maximum. If you subscribe to a plan that faster and have that in your area, right? Then that MB8611 seems to be the one to go with for multi-gig. Which
how much did that cost?
I'll put a link to them below on Amazon. They're about like under $200. I was able to find a used one because I'm cheap, so I'm gonna try that baby out. But I'll put a link to the MB8611 below if you want to check one out. But that's gonna be important because you want to make sure that you have multi-gig to go with this gateway, right? If you want the maximum performance, because as I saw here, some of the 1 gig cable modems don't even provide a full 1 gig.
When you were talking about that, I was actually thinking of my personal modem because they upped me to, I was 500 by 500. They upped me for free for 1 gig by 1 gig fiber.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, that made me think about my modem. Like, okay, what is the capacity of mine? And I haven't looked at that at all. Because anytime I test on the wired side, I never really achieve a gig or close to a gig. But I have to look at it. I haven't done it in a while.
Right. So when I do an internet speed test, on a wired multi-gig
You're
workstation,
getting like 900, right?
930. I'll get about 930, and that seems about right. If it,
Yeah.
a little bit of overhead there. So anyway, that the MB8611, it'll do up to 2.39 gig, and my plan that Comcast just upped my plan, whatever it is, to like 1.2 gig maximum. So we'll see if I notice a difference when I swap
Yeah.
that thing in. If I see it go up
Wonder why you probably know this. I don't know this. Why 1.2?
I don't know. Maybe it's just that they can support that in more markets or something. Like they can't get a full 2.5 gig yet out there. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's for a reason, I guess. I was at a 1 gig tier, and just like a few weeks ago, I noticed they upped it to 1.2. So then I started looking at the cable modem again. Like is there a newer one I can get? So yeah, switching away from Aris to Motorola. Let's see how that one works.
See what happens.
See what happens there. So that's pretty interesting stuff. Now, what else? I'm still showing the screen with the ESG510. People are probably bored of that. But what else should we show in the cloud while I've got this up, Brian? I'm going to show...
Maybe the LAN configuration. Let me talk about my webinar.
Yeah. So I'm going to go to Gateway Interfaces, and I've got the LAN configuration up. Are you looking at it?
Yeah. So,
okay.
What's that?
Yeah, so I'm into the LAN configuration.
Yeah, so I did a live demo on Wednesday, and on that live demo, I did the ESG510 setup. I did with a ECS 2528 FP, which is the multi-gig 24 port switch, and then the new ECW336 Wi-Fi 6E access points. So all like high bandwidth or high throughput capacity type devices, and then some of the newest devices that we have. And so I did a webinar, and that included like actually creating the organization, the network, and then registering these devices and then configuring them. Mm-hmm. And that's probably one of the fastest webinars I've done. Like I thought it was going to take me longer. Now keep in mind that the hardware was already updated, so I didn't have to go through firmware updates. But from start to finish, I was done probably in 30 minutes. It was more or less waiting for things to kind of boot up, and then I had Eddie and myself. We connected to it to see if I set up a VLAN for the guest network to see if he got the proper IP addresses, and I connected to the staff network to see if I got the proper IP addresses and if we could surf, and all was good. So it was probably one of the fastest demos I had to do. But now that we have control over all these devices within the cloud, there's so much more that we can do, and we will do. So it's really nice.
Yeah, you said you set up a VLAN real easy. Now I'm showing the addressing page here. Now it's so simplified that the first time I went in here, I was confused when I set it up. I thought that where it says IP addresses, I thought that was the subnet because of the mask to the right. So I put in 10.0.0.0 instead of an IP address of .1, right? And it didn't work, and I was like, "Ooh, what's going on here?" Because there's no DNS servers, there's no gateway setting, nothing in here, just IP address, right?
That
really simplified.
Yeah,
it's
really
getting it's getting the DHCP servers from the WAN connection, which you can manually set if you want to, but then it's just bringing those in there.
You can do a custom DNS.
Yeah, so it's so simplified that you got to look at. It's like a whole different way, right? When you set it up, like you just put the IP address, the subnet mask, and that's all it needs from you on the LAN side.
It's night and day difference between like setting up a MikroTik versus like setting up that in regards to VLANs.
Yeah, and I'll show the VLAN interface I have in there too. So if you look, I have a VLAN 2 set up with 10.10.10.1. And I just select the VLAN, and that's basically it. And it starts routing. And what ports do you want it on? I have it on port 1 and 2. I can add it to port 3 too. Now that I'm not using that, but I'm not going to do it now because it may reset the connection.
It shouldn't reset it.
Okay.
But yeah, I wouldn't test it now.
Yeah, it's working, so I'm going to leave it alone. But So yeah, real easy to set up VLANs and start routing with DHCP server for the VLAN. We have that there, and you can
The
see.
other thing I would mention really quick is
Mhm.
that if you think VLANs are easy, the site-to-site VPNs are really easy. It's literally like a click,
Yeah, we're gonna do
maybe
that
two
next week.
clicks.
We'll do that
Yeah,
next week. So
we'll
I'm
talk about
I'm showing the DHCP setup, and like you can see, you can set up a reserved IP range. Like
Yep.
I have some static IPs I'm using, and then you can set up DHCP reservations, which I got a bunch of different things in there. So you can do all that stuff too right through the cloud. Real easy to do. So yeah, it's working great. And the one other thing you wanted to show from the cloud was
Oh yeah, yeah.
how to switch from Pro. You said you're getting a lot of questions, or switch
Yeah, I
to
get a lot
Pro.
of questions about
Yeah.
switching to Pro because every switch, every new switch, every new AP that is purchased, we're giving a free license or a free Pro license with it. So we get a lot of people we get a lot of people buying licensing, but we also get a lot of people that want to test like Pro. So yeah, if you could show them
Yeah,
where
I'm showing it now, and actually my gateway is still on basic, so you can see you can change from basic to Pro for both AP switch and gateway, right?
you can do it now, it's not going to
Okay,
disrupt
I'm
you,
gonna switch to Pro.
I think.
Let's see. Yeah, so you see it'll operate under valid Pro license for 1 year. There we go. So I'm gonna hit apply, and now we're on Pro. But that's how you do it.
Yeah, it's super easy, and then the time starts ticking right away.
Yeah, as
So
soon
it's
as you do
not.
it.
It didn't start when you turned it on. It's already started. The time.
Oh, really?
It started burning. Yeah.
Okay.
Already. So you have to do it like right away.
Oh, so there's no reason
You don't
not
have
to
to
turn
do
it
it right
on.
away, but you want to take advantage of it, so you do it right away.
So is let's say someone buys an access point, and then 6 months later they turn Pro on. They decide to try Pro. They only have 6 months left to try.
That's right.
From the time they registered the device
Yes.
in the cloud.
Yep.
Yeah, gotcha.
Yeah.
All right. Well, yeah, I'm on Pro now, so I'm gonna explore what new features I have there. But it's working good. And so, how soon will people be able to get their hands on these for real?
December timeframe.
December timeframe. Okay.
Yeah, hoping to get them as soon as possible. But you're one of the first. You're the first external beta testers to have them. I just sent out betas yesterday to a couple folks, and then I'm getting more betas to send out. So we want to take it through its paces with the beta testers and have them specifically test the VPN side of things, and the basic functionalities and stuff. But yeah, it will. It's by the end of December. I hope to start shipping these things out.
Nice, nice. So I may be one of the first sites to actually have the gateway up live, like running my whole business on it, right?
Yeah, I would say you probably are.
And unless other people got them too, but I don't know if they're
Maybe
trusting them
in
yet.
Europe or somewhere else,
Yeah,
maybe. Yeah. But yeah.
But all right, well, I'll run this until next week, and we'll talk again. I'm gonna do some VPN testing this week with both site to site between two gateways, and with one of my customers. They have some specific VPN that they're using. I'm gonna try with. So anything else you want to talk about this week?
No, I think that's it.
All right. Remember to like and subscribe, and we'll have more gateway talk next week.